All right, you are now live.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. I will call this meeting to order at 4:04 p.m. Um, I'll just quickly read the municipality's land acknowledgement. The Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. I will start this meeting with a roll call and AV check. So when I say your name, please just check that your video and microphone is working. And it looks like most of your videos are already on, but we still have to do it. Okay, starting with Councillor Laura White.
Good afternoon.
Great, thank you. Councillor Jean Saint-Amand.
Good afternoon, all.
Thank you. Councillor Trish Purdy.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you. Glenn Babcock, I believe, is not here yet, so we can come back to that maybe if that changes.
Yeah.
Anne Sinclair.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, thank you. Jamil Sino.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you. Kathy Stevenson. I see you. Oh, I see your hand up. Great, thank you. Oliver Keith.
Everybody.
Hey, thanks. And Nick Harris.
Hey.
Thank you. And me, Rochelle. My microphone works in theory. Cool. All right, so now we're looking at approval of minutes from August 25th, 2025. So I'll ask if there are any errors or omissions for the minutes of August 25th, 2025. If there are none, I will invite a member to move the following motion that the minutes of August 25, 2025 of the Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting be approved as presented. So I'll open the floor if anyone has any.
So moved.
Okay, great. Moved by Jean Saint-Amand. I need a seconder.
I'll
I
second.
see. Great, thanks, Jamil. All right. So I will call for the question. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Great. All those opposed say nay or raise your hand. Seeing none, that motion has been carried. Moving on to the approval of the order of business and approval of additions and deletions. To our legislative assistant, are there any changes to today's agenda?
There are no changes to today's agenda.
Great, thank you. So I'll invite a member of the committee to move the following motion that the agenda be approved as presented. I saw several hands go up, but I'll let, this is for Councillor Trish Purdy as the mover, and I think Nick, that was you maybe as the seconder. Great, cool, thank you. Okay, I will call for the question. All those in favor say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. And all those opposed say nay or raise your hands. Seeing none, great, the motion has been carried. Business arising out of the minutes. There is no business arising out of the minutes. I'll now call for the declaration of conflict of interest. Does anyone have a conflict of interest that they would like to declare for any items on today's agenda? I'm seeing none. Great. All right, considerations of deferred business. There are none. For correspondence, petitions, and delegations, to our clerk, has any correspondence been received?
No correspondence has been received by the clerk's office.
Great,
And no
thank you.
petitions
And
have been received.
great,
Sorry.
you beat me to it. Thank you. I should just ask them together. Great. All right, information items brought forward. There are none. And did I already miss that? Oh, and there are no presentations from the public. So we're moving on to 9 reports and discussions from 9.1 from staff. So we'll start now with concept plans for the Halifax Urban Greenway extension and active transportation facilities to Point Pleasant Park. So I'll invite Garrett Donaher, and the Senior Transportation Engineer of Englobe, and Aaron Eldridge, Landscape Architect, to deliver a presentation. They'll be using slides. And we've asked that their presentation does not exceed 15 minutes. And I put a note in here that I should put a timer on. So I'm going to do that once they get started. And then we'll go through the speakers list reminder after the presentation. So if you have questions, just write them down somewhere and we will get to you to answer those questions or to ask those questions. If there's something of clarification that you cannot proceed without, that's like an okay time to ask a question, but otherwise questions at the end. Yes, Anne, I see your hand up.
Yeah, hi. Just a quick one. I just see something has just arrived in my email that has to do with today's meeting. Is that something that we need to pay attention to ahead of this presentation?
Shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be. Great. Maybe it might just be the slides. I feel like maybe that was it.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks. All right. Go ahead, Erin and Garrett, you can get started.
Thanks, Rochelle. Hello, everyone. My name is Erin Eldridge. I'm a landscape architect with HRM and the project manager for this assignment. I have our consultant, as Rochelle mentioned, Garrett Donaher from Englobe, here to present to you with our concept plans for this project, which is a mouthful. It's called the Halifax Urban Greenway Extension and Active Transportation Connections to Point Pleasant Park. In a nutshell, the project is proposing to extend the existing Halifax Greenway, which is a multi-use pathway which ends at Beaufort and Bellevue Avenue. And we're looking to extend this through the St. Mary's University campus. And we're currently working closely with SMU on what this greenway alignment looks like. In addition to the greenway, we're looking at some options to create an active transportation connection from the university and this greenway extension down to Point Pleasant Park. And Englobe has been exploring a number of active transportation routes to make this link. So ultimately, the project will end with a functional plan, and both portions of the project, the Greenway and the AT connections, will need to proceed to council for approval and budget allocation before moving to detailed design or construction. And with that, I'll hand it over to Garrett to get into the details.
Thanks very much, Erin. You should all be able to see the presentation slide now, I'm hoping.
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So this is a longer presentation, so I'm going to skip through a bunch of slides that are more for context and dig into the real meat of it to get us through it in 10 or 15 minutes here and give you time for lots of questions. But really quickly, we're just going to do a quick overview, kind of see where we are in the project, and then talk about two main things: the evaluation framework that we're going to be applying to the project, and then what those concept options are. So to start off with a really high-level overview, I've got a big map here that just shows the south end of the Halifax Peninsula. We've got St. Mary's University here right in the middle. Point Pleasant Park is underneath of it to the south. We've got Dal up further to the north. So our project area is pretty big as we try to figure out how to take the Halifax Urban Greenway that exists on Beaufort right now, adjacent to the CN Rail Cut, through into St. Mary's and then connecting down into Point Pleasant Park. I also have a little inset image here that shows the Active Transportation Priorities Plan with this route on it. So this project has kind of been in the works for over 20 years now. It's been being worked on in various forms. And so we have some of it that's built and we're working on the next stages of it. So on our next slide, we have an overview map that zooms in a little bit. So we have, again, St. Mary's at the top of the map and Point Pleasant Park at the bottom. And we have two key components here. One is the Urban Greenway extension that we're going to take forward as part of this project that goes from the existing Halifax Urban Greenway on Beaufort and then through the kind of the wooded area at the bottom of the SMU campus. It's called the Oaks. So that part of the project, there isn't really alternative routes. It's just kind of the details of how we get through the woods on that segment. And then we have 5 big options to get from the Oaks down to Point Pleasant Park. So we'll talk about each of those 5 options as we go through the presentation. And a quick preview of where we are in the project. So we have already gone through a little bit of a reporting and exploration exercise to make sure we understand the existing conditions and kind of the background documents and that long project history that I mentioned a minute ago. And at this stage, we're looking at the concept design. So it's a very early stage of design where we kind of start to explore what the implications are of taking a facility from SMU all the way through to Point Pleasant Park, and what the options are, what the different trade-offs are, what the implications of each are. And then at this stage, we'll also be doing a public engagement exercise. So that's coming up at the beginning of October. We're going to have a couple of pop-up meetings and a public open house to explore the same material with the public. And we'll be talking with you today, obviously, and with the Active Transportation Advisory Committee on Thursday. We'll be talking to them. So we're really trying to get out and learn everything we can about what are in these concepts that we're presenting today and how people feel about them, so that we can make a good recommendation to choose which route is best for all the different considerations that we need to keep in mind, and then take that forward into the design process. So how do we do that selection? How do we choose it? We have an evaluation framework that we're going to look at. There's a big table on the evaluation framework. There's a lot of text here. I'm not expecting anybody to read it at all. On here, we have 8 kind of high-level buckets of things that we want to consider as part of our evaluation of the different routes. So I'm going to go through those with you. There's pedestrian movement and safety. How good does the new facility serve pedestrians? There's bicycle movement and safety. So how good does the facility serve cyclists through the area? There's a category here for safety and environmental security. So that's how comfortable and safe do people feel if they're using the facility. So trail through the woods can be pretty scary. So it'll be, illuminated and opened up as much as we can. So that sort of angle on things. Transit, there is transit that runs down to Point Pleasant Park. So do our routes impact transit at all? Do we have opportunities to improve transit? The next criteria is vehicles, so traffic and parking. Are we impacting people's ability to get through town on the streets, find parking that's close to home or their destination? So those fall into vehicle, traffic, and parking, that kind of bucket of criteria. Health and environment is an important one that we want to think about. Are we impacting the natural environment with trees and whatnot? But also, do the different options, or how do they support healthy lifestyle? How do they support good air quality? The psychological benefits of having access to nature nearby. So health and environment kind of has a few different pieces into it. How do people feel about it? So just the general public sentiment when we go out and have those events and learn what everybody thinks. And then how feasible is it to actually implement? So we have various levels of cost that we'll be dealing with. So this evaluation framework is in draft format right now. And as part of the exercise of going through this stage of the project is to learn what everybody thinks about the evaluation framework, as well as about the options, so that we can make sure that we're measuring things correctly and evaluating correctly. So we'll dive into the options right now. So this is where I'm going to start skipping a bunch of slides. So bear with me. And if we want to come back with a question, I'm very, very happy to afterwards. So this first picture is a picture of Beaufort. You can kind of see in the middle of the picture the end of the existing Halifax Urban Greenway. So this is our connection point where we're bringing everything together at kind of the northwestern edge of the project area. And on this slide, we have a couple of cross-section views kind of animated of what Beaufort looks like today. So right now it's pretty simple. It's just, a couple of lanes of traffic for people to get in and out of the cul-de-sac, and you can kind of park along one side. And the proposed condition is that we would replace that parking with a multi-use path and a boulevard where we can do some tree planting. And so that would extend into the woods area. So on this next slide, I have a bunch of picture of what the woods look like right now. In the Oaks, there's lots of beaten tracks at various points through the Oaks. So we're going to be kind of choosing one of those beaten tracks and going off it in some areas to try to minimize our environmental impact as we build the trail through here, and kind of improving this connection for the folks that are using it today, as well as providing access for more folks in the future. So on here we'll have an asphalt trail 3 meters wide. That's the multi-use path that is the Halifax Urban Greenway, and including kind of pedestrian scale illumination along the length of that path is important for us from that safety and security side of things as well. And the greenway portion of it, the part that is happening, that there's not really a bunch of options around, ends on Gorsebrook. So this picture is on Gorsebrook where the path comes out from the Oaks to meet Gorsebrook. This section of it that's closest to Roby Street is actually owned by SMU, so we're working with them. There's currently an asphalt sidewalk that runs down the middle of this picture. So that asphalt sidewalk would be replaced with a multi-use path to get us over to Roby as part of this project. And this looks at the same thing, just in cross section is this picture. So I'll skip that one. Next, we move over to Franklin. So concept number 1 and concept number 2 cross from the Oaks across a new active transportation bridge over the CN rail cut. So this would be kind of parallel to Tower Road, but placed a little bit further west where the SMU campus is. And then they get to Pine Hill and Franklin. So this first picture looks from Pine Hill down toward Franklin. And then this next picture looks on Franklin, kind of south towards Point Pleasant Park. They're pretty quiet residential streets. This spot is next to the School of Theology. So we have kind of a demand there for folks to access the School of Theology. There's parking on one or both sides of the streets, depending on where you are, and it's a pretty quiet residential street. So one of our options, number 1, is to just convert those kind of quiet local streets into a local street bikeway. So we might include a speed table here or there to keep cars slowed down to a reasonable speed. But there's not very much traffic on there right now, so we don't really need to worry about pushing cars anywhere else. So that's the concept number 1, is a local street bikeway along Franklin from the new active transportation bridge into Point Pleasant Park. And then concept number 2 is the same thing, except instead of a local street bikeway, we make some improvements along one side of the street with a multi-use path. I forgot to mention on the last slide that as part of the local street bikeway, we'd also add in a piece of sidewalk that's missing today. There's no sidewalk at all on Franklin, so we'd add in a piece of sidewalk to help pedestrians out there as well. So that's concept number 1, is the local street bikeway with the sidewalk, and then concept number 2 is the multi-use path running along Franklin. Both of them use that new bridge to get across the CN rail cut and connect directly into the Oaks. And then they enter into Point Pleasant Park at kind of the side entrance off of Franklin, rather than up at the main entrance of the parking lot. I'll skip a couple here of boring slides. And then concept 3 runs along Gorsebrook. So we're back up at the top of the study area from the Oaks, running along Gorsebrook with a multi-use path. And then we connect over to Tower Road. And so on Tower Road, we would have a multi-use path that runs all the way down to the main entrance of Point Pleasant Park where the parking lot is. So this is a picture of Tower Road now. You can see on the right-hand side of this picture, there's a lot of utility poles and mature trees in the boulevard. And a multi-use path, if it was a selected option, would impact all those trees, all those utility poles, the parking along one side of Tower Road. So it's a fairly impactful option, but it does provide a nice protected environment for active transportation users, though they are mixed together, both cyclists and pedestrians. So that's route number 3. This is what it looks like in cross-section. I'll skip through a couple of slides here to get to route number 4. It's very similar. It starts up on Tower Road. So Tower kind of connects into the back of the Oaks, that wooded area, with a cul-de-sac. So our multi-use path that runs through the woods will come up to Tower Road. And then along Tower Road, we would have a local street bikeway. As a cul-de-sac, it's a pretty quiet street, not very many cars, not too fast. So we'd have a local street bikeway that comes across Tower Road, or across Rogers, sorry,
Yeah, I was just gonna add it's Rogers. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Laura. And then from Rogers, we would bring that local street bikeway out to Tower Road. There's my tower. And then south along Tower with a local street bikeway. So with a local street bikeway along Tower, we would include a little bit more traffic calming as well. There's already some speed tables along Tower that go by the elementary school. And so we can continue that treatment south toward Point Pleasant Park. And then our last option, concept number 5, takes us across Southwood Avenue from Tower. So across Southwood, which is again a nice quiet local street, and connects us to Yonge Ave. So on Southwood itself, we would have that local street bikeway treatment again. So sharrows, maybe a bit of traffic calming. There's an existing sidewalk on Southwood, so pedestrians have space for themselves. And then we would connect across to Yonge. So on this picture, we're taking a look down, we're looking south along Yonge. We can see the median, parking on both sides of the street, and the bridge over the CN rail cut is in the middle ground there. So we have a couple of options of how to improve Yonge to take bikes from Southwood to the entrance at Point Pleasant Park. Those two options are to, the first option is to take out the median. There's a couple of trees along it today, but mostly decorative lighting. So the first option would take out the median, reduce the parking from both sides to one side, and provide bike lanes along both sides of the street. And then in the second option, we would keep the median because it is like a nice kind of character building element of Yonge Avenue, and then provide bike lanes on both sides of the street. But in order to do that, we would need to take parking away from both sides. So we kind of have two options there with our Yonge Avenue scenario, to either keep a little bit of parking or keep the median. And that is the end of the options. So I blazed through that really, really fast, and I'm hoping you can spend some time with the presentation afterwards, but happy to go through any questions.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to start down on the speakers list, and feel free to answer directly, Garrett, or also Aaron. You can also answer directly if people have questions for you. Let's see who's first. Oliver Keith.
Thanks, Garrett. That was really great. I like the methodology a lot. I was wondering if you could just return back to the criteria section again, just so I could give it one more look. I had a note here. Right, I think it's, where is it? Safe and comfortable access to buses and bus stops is weighted at 3%. I was just curious, like for my own knowledge, like how the design of the weight is at like a number like 3% will guarantee that there will be barrier-free bus stop connections, or that like sidewalk access or anything like that is guaranteed if the weight is at 3%.
Yeah, so the weighting won't impact the design work at all. The weighting is trying to help us push an option higher or lower based on the implications. So something like the bus stop access, there's bus stops along Tower. If we have a route that goes along Tower, we are going to be making sure as part of the design work that those bus stops are as good as today or better, and not making them worse. So the low number there doesn't mean that it's not important as part of the design. It just helps us flag issues if there was an option that had that was really constrained for some reason, and we knew at kind of this early stage that we wouldn't be able to provide the best bus stops. Then we would mark that criteria down and say, well, this option is worse because it doesn't let us make the best bus stops.
Okay, that actually clears up a lot. I actually appreciate that a lot. That's my only main concern. Thanks, Rochelle.
Thanks, Oliver.
Thank you. All right, next on the list is Glenn Babcock, but as far as I know, he has not arrived, so I'll move on, and then if he shows up, he can ask a question. Nick Harris.
Perfect, thank you. I don't currently have anything.
Cool, thanks. Moving on to Anne Sinclair.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for that presentation. I have to admit I'm struggling a bit trying to take it all in with the LSBs and MUPs and some images that don't have street names and some that do. So, and I know you're under a strict timeline here, so I'll have to just think about things on my own later, but I do have a question about Franklin Street. It looks like one of the proposals is to put the multi-use
Yeah, the multi-use path.
Franklin. Right. The multi-use. Can you go to the actual plan that you said was boring? Yeah. So concept 2 with the multi-use, it's if we look at concept 1 above, there's already an existing towpath, is there not, along Franklin that people are used to walking along? So it just hit me like because I'm just looking at this for the first time. Why would you not put the multi-use on the same side that people are used to, where there's already somewhat of a pathway?
Yeah, so for the multi-use path option, we're doing two things. One is we have on the kind of the eastern side of Franklin, closer to the Point Pleasant Park, we have an asphalt sidewalk from kind of the entrance to the park that we're using up to Point Pleasant Drive. So we're able to kind of reuse some of that space to provide the facility with lower impacts elsewhere. And then from Point Pleasant Drive up to Pine Hill, where we're able to get onto that new active transportation bridge, we noticed when we were doing our site visits, a lot of folks were walking along that side of the road, walking their dogs, jogging along that side of the road, rather than going up on the grass. So we thought that would be a good improvement for folks that are kind of coming out of the park, not having to cross Franklin and cross back over again, to provide the facility on that side.
I see. Okay, thanks. That's it.
Thanks, Anne.
Thank you. Next on the list is Jamil Sino.
Thank you. So my question is that we are now looking to implement these changes for this road is because we're looking to improve the safety for bike users. Am I correct in understanding that?
So the overall, like the Halifax Urban Greenway concept is for like movement, like active movement throughout like that corridor of the Halifax Urban Greenway, not just focus on bikes. And so the connection from Beaufort through the Oaks is a multi-use path. That's what's kind of been agreed on to date, and we're working with SMU on that. And then the connection from St. Mary's University down to Point Pleasant Park, that segment, we don't know what the best facility or what the best route is. And we want to make sure we're providing for both pedestrians and cyclists along that connection. So that's kind of the topic of those 5 different concepts is, what's the best way, all things considered, to get from the SMU campus to Point Pleasant Park to bridge that connection in our network.
And so then I guess I did notice in part of your criteria, it was fairly on the lower side of the weighting, having accessibility opened up for all types of different abilities. So I would almost wonder, what are the considerations for people who have different abilities, who might, use wheelchairs or, canes as assistive technologies? Are there options or weightings specifically that have a greater impact that way than others?
Yeah, for sure. So some of the key things that come into play there are we choosing a route that has slopes, like steep grades on the existing roads today, that will mean that no matter what we build, we can't really build it to be accessible for somebody who is using an assistive device, And then similar to what I was mentioning earlier about the transit stops, some of the detailed kind of design treatments to make it as accessible as possible for somebody with low vision, or like the ramps to get across the streets, like those are kind of baked into the typical detailed design process. And so the criteria that we're using is to say, do we think at this kind of early stage that we're going to run into any hurdles when we go to implement those accessible design features? And so some of the options, yeah, definitely there's steeper grades, we're going to run into hurdles. Whereas if we're just following along the existing sidewalk in a future design, we can make those typical improvements as we go along, and it's not as onerous.
Okay, perfect. And then I'm assuming with transit, obviously, a lot of buses are designed to be wheelchair friendly, but are Accessa buses also things taken into consideration when building or weighing out these options?
Yeah, so it depends on the routing. Right now, I think there is on Gorsebrook location that the Access bus stops at SMU. Along Tower, our stops, I don't think there's any that are specifically called out as Accessa bus locations right now. And so it's mostly the main transit stops. But that's a good question that we can follow up with transit about to see what their Accessa bus ridership is like in the area, to make sure we're handling that.
Perfect. Actually, is there a way that maybe like if you do end up following through on that, letting us know what the results of that question would be?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Councillor Laura White.
Hi. I think I'm still, like Anne said, in the taking it all in phase and really interested in what other people are thinking. There's a lot of variety and a lot of thinking about what is the purpose of this project and whatnot. So just say a couple things. I guess for me, the biggest plus of adding that active transportation bridge is honestly to get a sidewalk on Franklin. That feels like a missing thing. Like talked about the towpath and everything. Like I think that would be a real benefit to get something better for walking on Franklin. That's what I like about that option. I'm wondering for number 5. Did you ever think about doing like multi-use paths on either side of Yonge Avenue? Like I'm just thinking of, it's not a high, because it's going to the park, it's not a super high pedestrian place or cycling place at any one time. Just wondering if you could save the median, save the parking, and do multi-use paths instead of sidewalks. Was that ever thought of?
Yeah, it has come up. The sidewalk that's there today is about 2 meters wide, just a little bit more maybe. And Yonge Avenue, when we're looking at it, we're thinking about not just what's within our project area, but what a consistent facility would look like all the way up to Inglis, where Yonge Avenue changes into South Park, and we have the bike lanes up there, right? And so part of our kind of mental calculus for Yonge Ave is not just what works for this project, but what works to create that link between South Park and Point Pleasant Park. And so on the sidewalks, there are a lot of beautiful mature trees along Yonge Avenue in the boulevard space. And so trying to widen out that sidewalk to make it serve as a multi-use path was just kind of like,
too many trees.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Taking out the median doesn't feel good either. But it would be really great to have that connection for cycling there. So I think that's all I'll say at this time. If you used option 5 at all, how would you connect it to the St. Mary's piece? Like through number 3, I guess?
I did skip over that. Either number 3 or number 4, just that little first piece on Gorsebrook or on Rogers, we would have to choose one of those depending on what the feedback we got was, in order to connect from the Greenway extension that ends over at the Oaks to Southwood.
either one of those. Okay, that's great for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Councillor Jean Saint-Amand.
Thanks. I only had one clarifying question, and I may be misinterpreting the information, so forgive me. On the Greenway extension for Beaufort Avenue in the cross sections, we go from 3.3 meters wide for a lane of traffic to 3.85 meters wide on the remaining 2 lanes of traffic. And so the question that just leapt into my mind, because we've been having so many discussions as of late around, narrowing lanes, slows traffic down, et cetera. In this case, we're actually going wider. So while the bikeway will wind up being completely separate, every time we have a crosswalk crossing across these lanes, is there not a fear of having traffic accelerated as a result of these wider lanes being introduced, such that the interaction between those that are crossing the road and the vehicles on the road would be of concern?
Yeah, so this section of Beaufort is a pretty short cul-de-sac. And so there isn't the same ability for somebody to get up to speed as there would be on like a regular street that runs straight through. Right. And so the reason that we have these lanes that are slightly wider is just to make sure that the maintenance and operation of that street is not too constrained. We can definitely go narrower. It wouldn't hurt, but having that little bit of extra space for the maintenance on the cul-de-sac makes things a little bit easier over there and doesn't hurt the traffic flow angle at all.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Councillor Trish Purdy.
Thank you. So thanks for this presentation, Garrett. It's very well laid out. So I'm just going to share some of the overarching concerns that I could see coming from this, and that I have just from seeing this presentation too. And I missed the timeline of this, so maybe at the end you could let me know that again. If you shared that already, I'm sorry. But so the timeline of this and the overall public consultation of this, if it hasn't happened already. But here's some of the issues that seem to come up every time for these types of projects. One is the impact to mature, beautiful trees, which we saw on the pictures that you showed us there. And just these mature trees are such a fundamental character feature of Halifax. So removing those, it is a real loss. The cost. How much is this all going to cost? And what is the cost benefit analysis to this? If we're talking about slow residential streets, which you showed in your picture, is it necessary to put big infrastructure changes that are going to cost a lot of taxpayer money? Parking. So we have no parking requirements for these big, huge developments that are going up in our downtown core in the center plan. There's no parking requirements. So I don't think we're seeing enough parking provided for folks who are going to be living in these buildings. And when we go removing on-street parking, we're leaving people in lurches. Where are they going to park? And also, where are cars going to go in our snow events for snow clearing? We need a parking solution for our city, and right now all we're doing is kind of compounding problems that are just kind of growing exponentially year after year because we're not coming up with any solution for this. And the last on my list is the impact, of course, to traffic flow. So these are the concerns that I hear about, and I hear and I share. So how can this all work together, I guess, is the big overarching question of the day. And so I guess that's it. So just wondering the timeline of this, when is this coming forward to an action stage, I guess?
Yeah. Aaron, do you want to cover the timeline
Sure.
stuff?
I can jump in on that, Garrett. Yeah. So thanks for those comments, Trish. I think that's helpful. And I think a lot of those will be addressed too through the evaluation matrix, and all of those considerations are being weighed as we move forward with the multiple options and looking at lots of options to kind of look at where we can retain things and those trade-offs that happen with the introduction of active transportation. In terms of the timeline, we are starting our public engagement at the beginning of October. We have 2 pop-up sessions, one on the SMU campus on October 2nd. We'll have another pop-up engagement session in Point Pleasant Park on October 4th, which is on a Saturday, and we'll have our public open house, which we'll be hosting on the SMU campus on October the 9th, and that'll be an evening session. So we have that component, and once we have some of that feedback from stakeholders, we'll look at the results, and Garrett will do his evaluation of the options, and then we're looking to kind of put that to a functional plan through the fall, October, November, with kind of a functional plan wrapping up hopefully before the holiday season. Is that accurate, Garrett?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm following our timelines. So this will probably come to council early in the new year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I will add to that as well, the greenway portion of it that we're working with SMU on, like through the Oaks, that will continue after the functional planning process so that we can get tender documents ready for Halifax to build that in partnership with SMU.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Kathy Stevenson.
I just have a quick question about the wooded pathways. Most of them are
Sorry, Kathy, it sounds like there's a lot of wind coming and we can't really hear your voice super well.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit. You're quiet, but if you're really loud, maybe.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, this is great. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, I've got it up to my lips now. Okay, just a quick question. You mentioned that through some of the wooded areas there were already beaten paths. Is that pretty much the case across the board, 100%? Also, concerning maintenance of those wooded paths, will there be lighting or anything of that nature there?
Yeah, so definitely the path that we build through the wooded path, we would bring kind of pedestrian, like person scale lighting through the full length of that trail as well.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Kathy. I'm last on the list. I have a couple of things. The first one was around the engagement sessions that you're doing. Like, most of them are sort of directed at like the neighborhoods that are surrounding, and also, in the park. And I think that's good because people who are outside of the neighborhood who are using the park would in theory be there for that engagement session, and so could still have participate in the engagement stuff. But I think maybe like more of those options, because, and this sort of in my mind comes back to the parking, like not just for the residents who are there, but people who want to use the park who can't access it through transit because there's not a lot of transit options in that neighborhood. The last thing you said was the thing that was on my mind around like Yonge Avenue really doesn't have any transit that goes right along it. And so that sort of leaves like a gap in how people can get there, especially if they're not able to just bike to the neighborhood. So yeah, I guess anywhere that there isn't good, an already established transit network that actually meets to that area, I think parking does have to be considered a little bit more highly, so that people who aren't from the neighborhood can still use the park. Because Point Pleasant Park's pretty it's a popular park. I feel like tons of people come to it from all over the like HRM realistically. And so, yeah, I feel like considering how people are getting to the park and people who don't live right around the area, how they're going to use the park, I just think needs to be like more of a thought process, if it's not already, and perhaps it just wasn't presented to us. But that's what I'm thinking about when it comes to like removing parking. It means that people who need to drive to the park to be able to access it won't have anywhere to park that's like close to the way to get into the park. So yeah, just what are the parking options, I suppose, in that realm. And then also, yeah, if there's engagement that can happen outside of just sort of the surrounding neighborhoods, or even like more in the park to try to catch people when they're actually there. So if they're like far away park users, then they would also be considered in the planning process and in the engagement process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks. The parking, like the demand of the park, like the parking demand for the park is something that we have definitely been thinking about. And one of the things that we have done is reaching out to the Point Pleasant Park Advisory Committee as well. So we're going to circulate through them to get their feedback. For the engagement stuff, it's always, a balance of, how many events do you have or how far out do you reach? We do have an online component that we didn't really talk about as well. So there'll be an Engage Halifax website and kind of the normal social media pushes as well, to try to give an opportunity to those folks that are a little bit further afield. And then as Aaron mentioned, our pop-up session in the park is going to be on a Saturday to try to maximize our potential capture of folks that are visiting just the park.
Great. Cool. Awesome. Even having like posters or something in the park so that people can access the online engagement piece. QR codes. I love a QR code. Yeah, just so that people who are in the park who want to participate but aren't going to make it then, and like social media, it's hard to figure out who's getting what. So I feel like actually having it in the place that people frequent, on whatever day they are frequenting, could be cool. And Anne, I see you have your hand up. So if anyone else has anything that they didn't get to add before that they would like to add now, we can quickly go through that if folks want to put up their hand. So go ahead, Anne.
Oh, yes. Oh, thank you. I didn't know if there would be time, but that's great. Now I've had a bit of a chance to think. And I appreciate all the others' comments too. And there were comments early on about mobility device uses on the multi-use path. So is this a general question about a definition of, or your definition, the designer's definition, or the criteria definition of multi-use path? So looking at the presentation, it seems to say to me, this just could be graphics, but it seems to say to me that the only place where mobility devices are considered possible is at the very end of the presentation on the Yonge Avenue, where there's an image of people with a walker. So not seeing any wheelchair people or and not any walkers in any of the other diagrams. I'm just wondering what that says about your definition of multi-use path. Thanks.
Yeah, and I apologize. That is a limitation of the kind of the graphics package that we use to put together those diagrams. It doesn't really give you a choice of who you show using the paths. It just kind of throws up a default. So yeah, that's great feedback. And it is what we used for this project, and that was flagged previously as well, as we were putting together the diagrams.
Well, okay. Yeah, thanks for the answer. I find that kind of unsettling about graphics packages. Like, for example, a lot of the multi-use paths show two bicycles, one way and one the next. So that's why I'm asking the question in a general way is, does that mean that if you had a graphic symbol of a person in a mobility device, would it be legitimate to put it there? Or are those only for bicycles? Because your presentation sort of suggests that it's for bikes. And I think that was what's triggered one of the earlier questions.
Yeah, it's definitely, when we're calling it a multi-use path, it's for everybody, not just bikes. And yeah, I understand kind of the miscommunication that graphic is causing. But yeah, everybody, no matter what device or lack of device they're using, is welcome on a multi-use path.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Anne. Okay, any other final thoughts from anyone or final questions? Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
Thank you. I just wanted to respond a little bit to Councillor Purdy's comments. I share a lot of them in this, and I think Council's going to have some interesting discussion over this. In that, correct me if I'm wrong, it's more of a recreational project than an active transportation project, unless we get into the Yonge Avenue work. That's my impression of the whole thing. I'd love to hear from staff and Karen on the background of how we got here.
Yeah, as a greenway, it definitely has a strong recreational component. With the two options that include that active transportation bridge in particular, that does provide like a transportation connection between the neighborhood south of the rail cut and SMU campus, and then up to Dalf campus even further, as well as the School of Theology. So there's that kind of closer connection between SMU and the School of Theology. So there are destinations that people are able to access more easily with some of these options. But yeah, as a greenway, it definitely has a very strong recreational component to it.
Thanks.
Thank you. And Jamil, go ahead.
Sorry, I just had one clarification question that came up after Anne's question. When you say that multi-use implies that it's for use by everyone, where is that really indicated? Because if all the signage points towards bikes, and if the presentation also points towards bicycles, how is someone who is maybe not in this conversation right now supposed to take a look at the multi-use path and then assume that that path is also for them? Because in the past, there have been, issues with people standing in bike lanes and it being like a hazard for both the biker and the pedestrian standing in the bike lane. So with a multi-use path being introduced and all signage indicating bipedal vehicles, so bicycles and stuff, can we assume if this is multi-use that motorcycles can also use this? I'm just trying to understand what the definition of multi-use here is, so that how are we considering this a path for everyone to be used? Because then people will be like, well, why not just use the sidewalk?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to improve our graphics then, because we were kind of relying on multi-use path kind of carrying the weight of communicating multi-use. So that's definitely an unintentional consequence of the graphic. So I apologize for that. We'll have to see if we can get things tweaked up for our public consultation materials.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Laura, I see that your microphone is on. I was wondering if you had something else to add or if I am just making an assumption.
I'm good.
Okay, cool. Thanks. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Garrett and Aaron, for being here and for the presentation. I really appreciate that you have come to talk to the Accessibility Advisory Committee at this stage of the project, because I think a lot of the time we're left until the end stages of a lot of projects once things are already happening. Although lately people have been getting to us, but being up high in the process is nice. So thank you both for being here and presenting to our committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. All right. So moving on to item 9.1.2, the 2025 town hall discussion. This will probably be a town hall discussion is probably going to be on all of our agendas until the town hall. So get ready for just all conversations about the town hall these days. But we are going to discuss, and I'm sort of leading this discussion because I already know about a lot of it, and we need feedback from everyone else. But also Elizabeth and Melissa are here to step in and answer any questions if there's things that I can't answer. So there's three things that we're going to be talking about for this section. We need to talk about some timing elements because some things have changed a little bit. And I'll get to that in a second. And then we're going to talk about catering. And then we're going to get back again to the roles and responsibilities pieces. But I will start with the first thing because I think this will be the most discussion based if I am not mistaken, but we'll see. So we found out recently from the people who do the live stream stuff that apparently there's like a lot of moving parts when it comes to setting up the live stream and getting everything set up and ready. And so our original plan was to have the booths available for people to access when they're arriving. But if from what the folks who do the live stream has said, we're thinking of changing that so that people, when they come in, just come and sit down and get ready to listen to the panel, and then the booths will open after the panel. And while we were, when we found this out, we were also talking about how this will impact like folks who are using sighted guides and folks who are using interpreters. Like there is a lot of other reasons to have the panel sort of be the first thing that we do, and then move into the booths afterwards versus having the booths going and then figuring out how people are accessing them, if they're requiring extra access pieces. So this is kind of the gist of things, but because we're changing the schedule that was previously decided, we wanted to bring it to the committee. So if I'm going to go through the speakers list, if anyone has anything to say about that, and then after we can talk about catering and the rules and responsibilities piece, because I feel like this needs its own discussion point. So I guess the things that I'm asking about are, is it okay with folks, or do you have any comments or questions about us changing up the schedule a little bit to start right into the panel and just have folks in that sort of beginning half hour just coming in and sitting down and getting sort of comfortable and things like that. So I'm going to go through the speakers list, and also feel free to ask me questions, but Melissa and Elizabeth are here to also answer questions. First on the speakers list is Nick.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I think initially, excuse me, my voice is going a little bit. I think initially there was a lot of pros and cons, I think, for either way. Like obviously site for booths, beforehand, an opportunity of kind of mingling, and then kind of getting into the panel, and then having booths afterwards as well, has its pros. But then really when you kind of get down to looking at, okay, how are people actually accessing the event? What's the timing? What's the actual kind of like the meat to the event, so to speak, for lack of better terminology, is really kind of the panel, and the panel is kind of the anchor of the event. And so I think, yeah, in kind of consultation and kind of seeing some of this stuff with kind of thinking about, okay, we have sighted guides, how do people get kind of into the room, possibly get food, possibly go get to their seats. When you kind of add the booths in beforehand, and you're kind of thinking, okay, getting people to a booth and then getting people from a booth to the chairs, and not having a ton of time beforehand does add that kind of like murkiness to potential like bleeding into the time of kind of interrupting the scheduled live stream, and also kind of again with the 4 pieces, which really is the panel discussion and the interaction with the community as a whole. And so I think for me, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense to just switch to, okay, people come in, they have the opportunity to just kind of get to their seats, get settled, panel happens, and then they can kind of continue those conversations afterwards. So yeah, I think for me that those are kind of some of the thoughts of like, okay, it actually puts I think a stronger focus on the panel. It makes it easier, I think, as well to have the live stream and have kind of a dedicated start time to the live stream where people aren't just going to be online and just waiting for stuff to start. If there's a delay for some reason, because we're trying to kind of handle in-person components to kind of get things rolling. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts on it. And I think I'm pro the switch. So love to hear what others think.
Thanks, Nick. Next is Oliver Keith.
Nothing more to add from that. I think Nick makes a lot of good points, and I agree with them. I think the new idea is great. Nothing more to add. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Oliver. Glenn Babcock's next on the list, but he is not here. Anne Sinclair.
Yes, thanks. I don't have anything more to add. I think it sounds good.
Cool. Great. Thank you, Anne. Jamil Sino.
I don't have anything to add either. I think everything is good. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jamil. Next is Councillor Laura White.
I'm good. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next is Councillor Jean Saint-Amand.
All good from my perspective as well.
Great, thank you. Next is Councillor Trish Purdy.
Same. Good.
Great, thanks, Trish. And last is Kathy Stevenson.
I'm good.
Cool, thank you. All right, that was really easy. Yay! I can see Melissa's big smile. We were like, we're gonna throw a wrench in a thing that we had, and we were nervous, but it looks like everyone's on board. And I think it makes sense. You know, we've like talked about the reasons that this is necessary, and most of them are accessibility related. So how could we be upset with that? All right, so next we're gonna look at catering. Although I am not in charge of catering, so maybe Melissa, I'll let you introduce this piece, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Chair. So I just want to illustrate what catering we had in the past. And Rochelle and Councilor Bird, you two will remember how much food we have left over and struggled trying to get that food to say shelters and all of that. That was an interesting piece. So this year we just did a mini downsize the food. So this is what we did last time. So we had sandwiches. I'll just run through what all we had, and then I'll say how much of each we had. So we had sandwiches, we had sweets, we had a cheese tray, fruit tray, veggie tray, and bottled water. So then when I put that all down paper, we had 40 sandwiches. So what they did was they cut these sandwiches up into 4 pieces. So you can imagine how many little sandwiches we had. We had 50 sweets. We had four trays of cheese. We had 2 fruit trays, 2 veggie trays, and 75 bottles of water. Now, it's really hard, folks, to really estimate. I'm going to be honest with you. It's really hard to estimate how many people will come in person. Between myself and Elizabeth, we are trying to work with over communication. We're hoping this committee can also share any communication project in your network that might want to come to ultimately, it is November, we never know what flu season, we never know what weather. If that is going to kind of deter people from coming in person or not. But in essence, we have way too much fruit last time. So I just wanted to kind of illustrate that we can still have the same type of food, but maybe downsize the amount. It's up to whatever the community was thinking.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm just going to go right down the speakers list again like we did before, and everyone can just share their thoughts. Nick, you are first again.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I get that it's hard to kind of base the order, because usually you would use a projected number to help you kind of go plus minus this amount. Do we have historical attendance numbers that we can kind of help to know? None? Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point, Nick. Maybe when somebody could kind of think you kind of have an idea. I think it's that we've all been so busy the day out that nobody's really been able just to and kind of figure out how many people is in the audience. But I guess when you look at, the numbers, I think we were thinking that we would have at least 15 people. And then the reason why we had extra water was for people on the panel. too. I think that was the reason for like having a few extra bottles of water. But I think we were thinking 50 people, and clearly we didn't get 50 people in. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that that's fair. I mean, it's hard to, yeah, to set what number we should strive for if we don't have an idea of folks. Like maybe it's what the committee hopes will attend this year, and we kind of base it roughly on that number, because obviously we don't want food waste. And I think part of that is, yeah, having a strategic plan of like, if there is extra food, like we know exactly what we're going to do with that so that we don't waste it, because that would be less than ideal. So yeah, so I guess I don't really have anything more. Yeah, that was just my point. Is like, do we have historical numbers to help kind of maybe solidify it? But perhaps it's a focus on like, okay, what are we aiming for attendance, and then making sure that we have enough to kind of satisfy that grouping of folks. And yeah, is it meal based? Is it like a snack amount? I think there are kind of like a couple thoughts that I'm like, are we trying to kind of like provide a meal, or like with sandwiches and kind of like other things, or is it more like finger food based of like, you know, fruit and crackers and cheese and like sweets and those kinds of things? Like there's that part too of like just less variety perhaps is part of it too. So ordering maybe for 50 people, but like what we actually order is dependent on what our goal is as well. So anyway, those are just a couple of thoughts.
Thanks, Nick. Next is Oliver.
Yeah, I'm following what Nick is saying as well. I think if we based it on like a percentage of our expected attendance, like if we have like, you know, like Nick used the figure of like 50 seats, including or excluding the panel, then we can work backwards. I also agree about the like intent of the food. So if we're really intending this to be something that like we're using while we are mingling, like those finger foods, the cheeses and etc., that might also cut cost and quantity. Um, those were my real two additions. I think the other thing is maybe we could like, I don't know how feasible this is, but like at least have like a rough costing of what everything is. And then go from there, you know, if we wanted to just do like, we don't have to do more than what's necessary. Because I also want to emphasize food waste. I think, you know, we do want to kind of be careful of that line. But those are my comments. Thanks.
Thanks, Oliver. Next is Anne Sinclair.
Yes, thank you. And I am sorry, can't offer anything here at all. I was just part of planning a family wedding, and everything was different than what we thought it would be. But the thing was, it was all right in the end. So I agree with what other people say, and I'm sorry I can't offer any help.
That's okay. Thanks, Anne. I think it's a good reminder, at least, that like things always go not according to plan. That's part of the fun of planning events. Somebody plans a lot of events. Jamil Sino.
Hey, so this is my first time planning an event like this. However, if we are getting something along the lines of finger foods where there are, you know, sandwiches or little handheld pastas or whatever, if there is leftover after the event, I know there are local food banks that would be very happy to receive any extra foods that might be left over. So in order for us to reduce waste, I know back, you know, last couple of months, Brunswick Street Mission, for example, was seeing, you know, an increase in need. And if there is leftover food, this is actually a great way of like just moving it forward and passing it on to reduce food waste. So I think whatever suggestions may end up happening, if like getting in contact with maybe some local charities, Feed Nova Scotia, Brunswick Street Mission, or anything along those lines, that might also help us create a plan for after the event to sort of you know, move that food forward and reduce waste. But that's sort of my only input on this, because this will be my first time experiencing this type of event, so I'm looking forward to seeing like how we are planning on using this food. But yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Camille. Councillor Laura White.
Just curious if that was ever tried before to have a connection with a shelter or charity that could take it, just so you've got that pre-planned and set up. So you don't have to worry about over ordering. Or
Yeah, go ahead, Melissa. Oh, sorry.
well, the other
Cut
thing
you
I was
off.
just going to say is then tell people they can bring containers and bring it
I
home
always do.
rather than under order and people are hungry. Yeah.
Thank you for that. So, these are good ideas, but it's the logistics of it. So, when you're there that night and the event is open, we had to think on the spot because all these places are open. That wasn't the issue, but the issue was transporting and having a body and having volunteers that would be able to do it. Because we can't leave the food at the lot. Like when we back up, we had to camp everything. Then so the food is going with someone if there is one thing. And that was a lot. So like these are great ideas. I think we need a plan of who on committee could possibly take things if we do have leftovers. That like because we know shelters are gonna be open that time of year. But if who can deliver that to the shelter if need be. And I think we can still trust the amount of food that we ordered because it was astronomical.
Do you have anything else to add, Laura?
Just if the logistics were sorted out and to know where to take it, I'd be happy to take the food to a shelter. Yeah.
Thank you. Great. Jamil, I see your hand up. Is it okay if I go through the speakers list, or is this like a okay, cool, great. I'll come back to you. All right, Councillor Jean Saint-Amand.
No questions for me.
Cool. Thank you. Councillor Trish Purdy.
Thank you. On the variety of food, I agree with you, Melissa, that we could definitely cut back on the variety of food offered, like maybe keep it simple, like crackers and cheese and fruit or something like that. Like, so there's not like 5 or 6 different options. I think that would be helpful. But one of the things I think might be a hindrance to people getting food is you have to go up to the front in front of everyone to get the food. So the placement of the food might be a hindrance of the stairs to get there. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's just the outlay of the room. You're kind of in everyone's sight to go get food. So that might be one of the hindrances of why there was so much food left over. And perhaps not a open time where people can kind of mingle and get food and talk amongst themselves. So those are just my comments. But there was a ton of food left over. There was a lot of food.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Trish. Next is Kathy Stevenson.
I'm good. I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks. I'm next on the list, so I'll just say a couple of things and then I'll come back to Jamil and if anyone else has anything else they want to add. In terms of the like variety and like what we're sort of doing, I think because it kind of takes place during a lot of people's dinner times, like I liked having the sandwiches because it was kind of like this is a time where people might have a meal and here's the meal. And we're asking them to be there for a long time. And for folks who are coming from the community that have like home care, that they're maybe not accessing their like meal prep home care related stuff that evening, I feel like having something that is a little more substantial is helpful, although perhaps folks are like, if they're not interested in sandwiches, then it doesn't make a difference anyways. But I liked the variety. I do think we could probably have less of it. Do we need 40 sandwiches that were then cut into 4 pieces? And I'm very bad at math, so I don't know how many sandwiches there were altogether after that. But I want to say it's over 100. I know it's over 100. I just don't know how much. Thank you for the smiles. Yeah, so that's like a lot of sandwiches. So maybe if we did like 20 sandwiches that were cut into fours, that would be more appropriate. And like 2 cheese trays instead of 4 cheese trays, like cutting it back, but not removing what we had before necessarily. Also to Trisha's point about people not wanting to go like down to get it in front of the like when the panel's going on, like super hard agree. I think because we have the booth set up this year for the second half, people will be more likely to like stick around and actually eat the food, hopefully. I also encourage everyone to bring containers. I brought a Tupperware last year. I took some home, but I didn't bring a big enough Tupperware, so that's on me. But yeah, and I do like the idea of people, of us like being able to, I don't know, bring stuff to a community fridge or a shelter or someone who could use it. But yeah, we will have to decide which one of us as a committee is doing that ahead of time and then like actually doing it, if that is what we decide. But yeah, I'd also be happy to take something somewhere, especially if it's more or less on my way home. I just have to figure out what's on my way home these days because some stuff closed. And anyways, I think that's all I have to say. Yeah, that's all I have to say. All right, I'm coming back to Jamil if you still had something that we didn't cover.
I was just going to just add some input to the conversation that was happening earlier with regards to transportation. I know that, for example, again, just referring back to my anecdotal experience, Brunswick Street Mission also did have vehicles that the employees would just use to go and pick up food at times and, to restock their own fridges and stuff. So if it's a matter of logistics and transportation, if it's a matter of reducing food waste, I'm also happy to use like my car, but I know that some of these local charities or nonprofits do have resources to actually come and pick up the food as well. So that's just something that we just will have to communicate with them and see in advance so that we can also like, offer any leftovers if there are.
Great, thank you. That's great input. Any other thoughts that folks have? And also, Melissa, does this answer the question and help you move along?
Kind of. So, you folks just okay if I just talk the list a little bit? Because besides Michelle, I'm not hearing exact numbers from people. So, and I'd like to order you first. So, are you comfortable at the beginning if I go with some of Michelle's numbers that they propose, and then I just cut a few other things that Jamil, I like your idea. My concern again goes on to logistics. We could contact people in the van, but we're not gonna know when the vans is their leftovers. Like we're only gonna know what leftovers at the very end of this event. So think about this from it's 8:30 at night. Who are we contacting? Yeah, because the library closes at night. So yeah, everyone has to be out of the library. So I still come back to logistics, like you done great suggestions, but in practice, when you're on the spot, because we may not have leftovers. But maybe by the time we cut back from last time, maybe this year we get more people, and then we don't have to worry about leftovers. Like leftovers is gonna be something we're not gonna know, unfortunately, until the very end of the evening. So I really encourage you folks to think over the next month. I mean, I'll make sure Elizabeth and I reiterate this solution, but thinking more logistically how would we do this? Councilor White, I see you and
Yeah, all I'm saying is like if there was somewhere we knew we could take it, I can just take it. Like if we don't have any, then we're good.
Yeah.
If we have some,
Okay.
I'll whip it up there on my e-bike.
There you go. Thank you. So I can at least look at what would be open and where we could take it. So
Yeah,
that
if I just
Yeah, like I have like dropped like after events I've just gone to what is the place? It's on Cogswell, or it used to be on Cogswell. I forget which one that is. But like I've just like dropped off like a handful of stuff after, and it was like after 10 p.m. and they were just like, yay. So I think some are going to be open and some won't, but just checking in on that ahead of time so that we have like a plan in place so that we're not
exactly. All I'd
stressing
have
at
to
the last
know is
minute.
somewhere that's open.
Cool. Great. Okay, that's awesome. And Nick, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
It was just the same thing. It's basically like it just making sure ahead of time that there is somewhere that will actually accept the donation to, not just that they're open, but that they will, like, that's something they actually want to use, and it's not just like a burden to them to deal with then. So like that's just my thought of like, for me, the pre-planning, which is great, Laura, like that you can take it there, because I think that's one part of it, but the other part is that, okay, we know like Brunswick Street Mission, like they want this, and like if we have any leftovers, like that's where it's gonna go. And like we know those details, so it's not just like, oh, I think this place is open, or like these are the 5 that we know are open, and then we take it somewhere and they're like, we actually like we don't want your like leftover food, like that doesn't help us, or it's not something that we take. So I think that's the one part is kind of, do they actually accept that type of food donation?
Thank you. Yeah. And I know some community fridges will take like open foods, like just produce and stuff, and some won't. So looking into that ahead of time, because I do think it would be, of the community fridges I know, I feel like that's where I would send it. Or at least I could take some to a community fridge if we're splitting it up afterwards. But yeah, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I didn't really have anything too significant to add, just that if we kind of, I don't know, look it up or Google it, like I can definitely just call places and try to get a hold of someone to kind of confirm that someone that they would be willing and able to accept food at that like date and time.
Cool.
So hopefully we can figure something out, and at the next meeting or so, or maybe do like a follow-up email once we have more details on where we might drop food off.
Cool. Great.
That is
Thanks,
all.
Elizabeth. Cool. Yay. All right. It sounds like everyone's generally in agreement of cutting down the food a little bit, but also we will plan ahead of if we need to take the leftovers somewhere and not just leave someone in a lurch. Okay. Last thing on the list for town hall conversation is the roles and responsibilities list. I feel like I don't know. I forget what this was about. So I'm going to pass it back to Melissa and Elizabeth to remind us all what this conversation is for.
Elizabeth, did you want to start?
Sure. So I can actually share my screen. It's basically just an update on what everyone is assigned to at the time and what roles we still need filled, which thankfully is actually not many at this point. Let me just share my screen. Everyone able to see that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And is that big enough?
It could probably be a little bigger.
Better?
That's better.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I guess I'll just go over. So really we only have one role left as of now, actually. I know when we had the agenda review, I don't think we quite connected with everyone yet to get everyone assigned to a role. So right now, for cited guides, we have all 3 counselors have taken on that role, which is great. Mic runners, we have Counselor St. Amand and Counselor White. For the food table, we have Anne Sinclair and Oliver Keith. For panel disassembly, we have Jamil, we have Counselor Purdy and Oliver. For Q&A, virtual Q&A facilitator, so it is noted there that I'll be helping with the transfer of questions from Zoom to the Google Sheet. But we have Nicholas, as the Q&A facilitator. For the Q&A table, that is one that we do need an additional person. Right now we have Sabine, and we'll need a second person, so that might end up being staff, because I believe at this point, all the committee members we have assigned to at least one, if not two roles, depending on what roles they've taken on and how the timing works. Timekeeping, we have Vanille. Massive front entry, we don't have anyone assigned to that currently. If anyone is, I guess, super keen to do that and they would have the capacity, they'd be more than welcome to, but we're also just thinking about just having a sign at the front with a box of masks at the front, so anyone who would like to grab a mask can on the way in. Legislative support, that's going to be from the clerk's office, so we have that assigned, and then we have Glenn as the floater. So I don't really have anything else to add. I think from here we'll probably have to look to either staff from the clerk's office or DNI. Melissa, I don't know if you have anything to add, but I think at this point the committee is kind of, everyone has been assigned to as many roles as possible. I see Councillor Purdy's hand is up.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. So just on the disassembling of stuff, do you need us there early to assemble the stuff first too as well?
I might defer that question to Melissa, just since I haven't been part of an actual town hall event yet.
Great question, Counselor. So, to my recollection, typically the library sends it off. The reason that we want the reason that we want to disassemble the panel is so people can access the booth a little easier. Typically, it would be like library and people just assembling, but because we want to make it easy for people to get at the panel and to help with knowing that the panel discussion is over, that people can get at the booth. So I don't think that we would need help setting up. We're going to be there super early that day anyway, myself, Elizabeth. But as far as what I recall from last time, the library had a work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if that changes, just let me know.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Purdy. Melissa, did you have anything else to add? I guess we just also wanted to just make sure everyone's okay with their current role. There was nothing that no one was accidentally put in the wrong role or anything like that.
Exactly.
I feel like we don't necessarily need to go through the whole speakers list for this. Does anybody have any qualms with where they have been put for their role? Speak now or email Elizabeth later.
Yeah, either.
Cool. And looks like everyone is cool with where they've been slotted.
Okay, awesome.
Great. Cool. Is there anything else from the town hall that you wanted us to chat about, either of you, Elizabeth or Melissa?
I don't think we had anything else on the list. I think those were the three main things, unless if I'm mistaken, Melissa, but I feel like you're shaking your head that was everything.
I think that was all I have for today.
Great. Cool. Okay. Well, with that being said, the date of our next meeting is October 20th. Same time, same place on the internet. And I will request somebody move to adjourn the meeting. I just need a mover. I don't need a seconder. I'm seeing a couple of people. I'll give this one to Councillor Trish Purdy. Great. The meeting has been adjourned at 5:34. Thanks, everyone. See you next month.
Great job
Thanks, everyone.
sharing.
Great job.
Oh, thanks.
Next month.
Beautiful.
See ya.